Hi, and welcome to Grammar Lesson 3, in which we'll take a closer look at nouns and pronouns. Let's dive right in. This is probably not news to you, but a noun is a word that names a person, place, thing, or idea. As we get into some specifics, it may feel a bit more complicated than that. If you're ever in doubt, just fall back on this basic fact. All nouns do the same thing, name a person, place, thing, or idea. But there are several kinds of nouns. Let's take a look at a few. Common nouns are general names for people, places, things, or ideas. Plumber, accountant, museum, theater, airplane, avocado, fear, consciousness. Another way to refer to people, places, and things is to call them concrete nouns, because they can all be perceived with our five senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Another way to refer to ideas is by calling them abstract nouns, because they cannot be perceived by our five senses. For example, muscle is a concrete noun, while strength is an abstract noun. In sentences, common nouns are not capitalized unless they appear at the beginning of the sentence. On the other hand, proper nouns are always capitalized. A proper noun is a specific name of a particular person, place, organization, or thing. Denzel Washington, Hollywood, TikTok, World Series, Star Wars. For the most part, proper nouns are concrete nouns. It gets a little dicey when you get into events like Father's Day or Hanukkah, but we capitalize those too. Nouns can also be divided into countable nouns or uncountable nouns. Countable nouns are nouns that can be individually counted. 1 holiday, 2 holidays. 1 photo, 2 photos. Uncountable nouns cannot be counted individually. For example, if someone asks you, "How much money do you have?" you wouldn't answer by saying, "I have 4 monies." You might say, "I have $4," because dollars are countable. $1, $2, $3, etc. Water is not countable, but ounces are. Snow is not countable, but snowflakes are. Then there are collective nouns. Collective nouns are special names of groups of nouns. For example, a group of sheep is called a flock. A group of bees is called a swarm. A group of monkeys is called a troop. A group of fish is called a school. A group of planes is called a fleet. A group of eggs is called a clutch, and so on. These are all common nouns, so they should not be capitalized. Another group of nouns is called possessive nouns. We'll get deeper into possessive nouns in another lesson, but for now, just know that nouns are generally made possessive by adding an apostrophe S to singular nouns, or an apostrophe or apostrophe S to plural nouns. For example, it's Bob's car. It's my cat's toy. It's the children's nap time. It's the 3 birds' nest. Finally, gerunds are nouns that are made from verbs by adding an ing ending. For example, swimming is fun. Voting is a privilege. Running is exhausting. That's enough about nouns. Let's take a look at pronouns. The main rule here is that a pronoun takes the place of a noun. But because nothing is truly simple when it comes to languages, there are several different kinds of pronouns. The pronouns you probably think of first are called subjective pronouns, meaning they are pronouns used on the subject side of a sentence. I run, we run, you run, he runs, they run. Objective pronouns are used on the object side of a sentence. That's for me, that's for us, that's for you, that's for her, that's for them. It wouldn't make any sense to say that's for they, right? The way that sounds correct to our ear is that's for them with an objective pronoun. Possessive adjective pronouns refer to ownership as a description right before a noun. My home, our home, your home, its home, their home. Possessive adjective pronouns can also be used by themselves or with a noun in front of it. Alone, it would sound like this. Whose is that? Mine. With a noun in front of it, it would sound like this. Success is mine. Reflexive pronouns refer back to the subject. I'll do it myself. We paid for it ourselves. You worry about yourself. He injured himself. Bob and Sarah provided for themselves. But wait, there's more. Indefinite pronouns replace non-specific nouns. Oftentimes, they replace ideas instead of physical objects. For example, one of the boys tripped over and crashed into a tree. Which boy? We don't know. It's not a specific pronoun. It's an indefinite pronoun. These indefinite pronouns are singular. They must be matched up with singular verbs. Each company is fighting. Not each company are fighting. Anything is. Neither is. Sometimes indefinite pronouns are plural and require a plural verb. We don't say both is guilty. We say both are guilty. And some indefinite pronouns can be plural or singular, depending on how you use them. For example, more were ignored. Like, there are many individual customers, and more were ignored in the store than helped. Or we can say, more is better, like more money is better than less money. Okay. Demonstrative pronouns are used when referring to something that is nearby or farther away. Do you want this book that's right here, or do you want that book that's on the other side of the room? Interrogative pronouns are used to ask questions. What, who, which, whom, or whose. People often confuse the use of who and whom. Who should be used on the subject side of a sentence, and whom should be used on the object side of a sentence. For example, who killed whom in the movie? Whose is also often used incorrectly because whose sounds exactly the same as whose. But they mean very different things. Whose, W-H-O-S-E, means who does it belong to? Whose car is that? W-H-O'(S) means who is? Who's going to the party? Let's review. Nouns can play several roles in a sentence. We'll call these roles noun jobs. This lesson focuses on nouns that act like subjects and nouns that act like objects. Subjects generally come before the verb in a sentence, but not always. And objects generally come after the verb in a sentence, but not always. Bob dropped the glass. Bob is the subject that comes before the verb. Glass is the object that comes after the verb. Don't worry too much about objects just now. We'll talk about them more specifically in Lesson 11. Finally, pronouns can do any job a noun can do. Pronouns are sometimes adjectives too, but we'll look at adjectives in Lesson 7. Pronouns are a bit different than nouns, though, because there are different pronouns for subjects or objects. James and Sarah drove the cars. Drove is the verb. James and Sarah are the subjects. They drove them. We would never say, them drove they. That just sounds wrong to us. The good news is that a lot of these subtle pronoun rules are learned without even thinking about it when we learn English as babies. Now, if you're learning English for the first time, it can be a bit confusing, just like learning feminine and masculine nouns in Spanish for the first time can be a bit confusing for non-Spanish speakers. Well, that's the end, and it was a lot, but you did well.